Did you see something in your uncle specific that made you feel like he was like you wanted him to be the father figure?
Time. Time. You know, when somebody, I think that's a major misconception that a lot of men have, is that we want to be providers to our kids. But if you want the admiration of your child, invest time in them. You have to step away from work. You have to get away from the grind, or bring them into the grind with you. Let them understand what's going on at a very young age. And that's gonna influence them a lot, because that's all they want. They want that time with you. They want that relationship with you.
Cause they thought I'd never make it. See me fall down and they celebrate it. Learn how to win with no demonstration. Pop out the cool, got a ventilated. Cause I can't see shit out on 95. Prolific little bitch, I see dollar signs. The shit I done seen got me traumatized. Tryna clear all the pain in my mama's eyes. And my daughter, she watching me closely. Tryna better myself like I should be. Had to chill out with all of that street shit. I came a long way, but don't push me. Rest in peace to my bro, it ain't right, dawg. 20 bands, nothing that's light sauce. Hit the booth and I turn all the lights off. Gotta get in my zone. Gotta turn on my phone, cause all them smiles is fake and I see it. Bad guy, if I got it, I'll be it. Baptized, but I'm living with demons. Trap vibes, so I'm cashing out Neiman's. No face, swear these bitches is heathens, but I don't need them though. Keep my moves quiet, you don't need it, no.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Prolific Podcast.
I haven't seen you guys in so long.
Oh my God, it's been a while. Glad to have you back. Glad to have you guys back. Welcome to episode number 39, ladies and gentlemen. It's Prolific Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Berto.
And your other one, Will.
Oh man, episode number 39. We have a special guest, and clearly, Will's acting a little special today too.
Yeah.
Let's
you get a pass once in a blue, right?
Let's let our listeners know we recorded the same episode 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And we forgot to press the record button. It's okay. It's okay. We're running this shit back. Anyways,
okay.
Moving along to our guest. It's all part of the process. Very, very special guest joining us today. Let me tell you a little bit about this young gentleman, U.S. Army veteran. Thank you for your services.
Salute to my brother.
Former professor at the University of Miami, been in the medical field for over 10 years. He leads one of the top-rated therapists in psychiatry office in Miami, Florida, dealing with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorders, OCD trauma. Whiskey's kicking in a little bit. One thing, fun fact that I like about this guy that he had in his bio, he doesn't like his empanadas with too much potato. Can't wait to talk about that.
True story.
Because Sergio's has terrible empanadas, and they always have raisins in it too. But ladies and gentlemen, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome, Prolific welcome to the one and only CEO and founder of AMP Mental Health, Dr. Adrian Mesa.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the platform again, my brother.
We have to do it. It's taboo if we don't.
Cheers to Willie.
Cheers.
Being Willie.
Cheers to me being me. Hey.
That's it. You don't have to explain nothing to nobody.
I am who I am. Who I'm not, I will never be. Right?
Going off of that, Willie, how are you feeling today? Let's check in on your mental. Let's check in on your overall.
It's funny because we didn't even talk about our numbers. Well, he
didn't say a number yet. I said a number. No, actually, he did. He said 9.5. Yeah.
And you didn't ask me. So.
Because that's when we figured out that you didn't press the record button.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. He stopped mid-sentence.
No, it wasn't.
He stopped mid-sentence.
No, it wasn't. We were going.
He was still talking about his mental health and why he's at a 9.5, and you did the whole shit.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So anyways.
Hey, I'm strike two. Let's
Let's
start with me. All right.
Start off with you.
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling really good. Last episode, that was kind of like weird because after the fast, I had done like a 3-day fast and I was like tripping out. But I feel good today. I mean, as far as a number, I'm talking about like 8.5.
8.5. Let's go. Clap it up for me. Give me clap it up. I think that's the highest you've ever said in the podcast. Just putting it out there.
Hey, man, I'm just trying to be like you. That's it. I'm trying to be like both of you.
You need a couple shades dark.
I'm trying to smell like Creed, straight from the gym. Anybody that I've ever seen in my life that goes straight from the gym wearing Creed, usually it's like a random cheap thing from Macy's, but not Creed. So salute to you, my brother.
Thanks, man.
He came prepared.
What about you, Berto?
I'm gonna go with the last week's number. I'm at a 9.
Okay,
like I said, I got a little sore throat, but overall,
my boy's 2 for 2 for the 9.
2 for 2, man. I'm trying to get to the 10.
We're gonna get there. Trust me.
To the 10.
We're gonna talk about cold therapy soon. So
yeah. Rewind.
Yeah. What about you, my brother?
I'm at about a 9.5. Like I said, hit the gym before I got here. Did a little cold plunge. I'll be honest, I didn't say this before, but the first 6 months of this year were rough. But the past 2 weeks have definitely taken a quick turnaround where, life kicks you in the chest every once in a while, but things are going good now.
Now, question. So, being that you guys are in the mental health realm, right? Did you feel any type of way that like you didn't see maybe previous signs, or maybe there was no, but like, when you're working in mental health, it's kind of like you almost have.
You ever been in a relationship that is going to end, but you ignore the signs?
Yeah.
Why? Right? Yeah. And we ignore the signs.
We're back to this.
So
2006. No.
So that's exactly what it was. You kind of see it, but there's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
There's magical thinking involved. There's this mentality that it's salvageable.
Yeah.
Even when all the signs point to this shit is over.
Yeah.
But yet, us as humans, oftentimes, we want to salvage and save and rescue. And that's not always the case, whether it's in business, in relationships, or in life as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talk to us about the actual business, since we're on the topic.
Yeah.
How did you get, because, you're looking at your resume, again, U.S. Army vet, nursing, professor, now fast forward, early 40s?
No, I'm 39, bro.
39.
Yeah,
late 39, late 30s, late 30s.
I'll be August 6th, I turned 40. So
okay.
Hey.
I guesstimated off of when you say you graduated high school.
So
I was all
you're
right,
good.
39, 40.
Yeah.
But, leading everything up to that, what made you transition? Obviously you were already in the medical field, but going from nursing and teaching to owning your own practice and specifically talking about mental health. What transitioned you into that? That made you want to open up your own practice and specifically deal with mental health patients?
Yeah, so I just want to say entrepreneurship is in my blood. My dad opened up a tire shop. Shout out to 103rd Street Tire Center.
Hey, plug.
Yeah, I need tires, bro.
Yeah,
I need some
I
rough
actually
flats.
just bought brand new tires.
There you go.
So you should have told me
It's all good.
a
2
week
weeks
ago.
Next time. So my dad opened up a tire shop when I was about 6 years old. He's been in the game for 33 years now. So that little tire shop is now a staple. My brother runs the shop with my dad now. So throughout school, so I knew for sure I did not want to work there. I knew that the tire shop was not for me. They used to call me El Niño Vago. Like I didn't want to do anything because I just hated the shop. The shop was a punishment for me. But while I was there, I learned a lot about the grind, the hustle, and just work ethic. And I saw my dad open up that shop and close that shop. So I think in the back of my mind throughout my schooling, I remember, I was taking notes in class, but I was always thinking about what could I do. I think a lot of people do that, but I really believe that at some point or another, I would have my own business, my own practice. So fast forward, I went through all these transitions in my career from pediatric ICU at Jackson Memorial. I transitioned to Children's Hospital of LA as a travel nurse. I came back and worked at Plantation General. I knew that I wanted to get out of PICU and transition to the psych ward. Why the psych ward? Why does anybody want to work with the crazy people?
The quote unquote,
right? The quote unquote crazy people. And the reason being that from a very early age, I knew what a Baker Act was. From about the age, so a Baker Act is an involuntary hospitalization of a patient, usually when they're a danger to themselves or a danger to others. And the reason that I knew that is because my Uncle Leo. So let me just paint this picture for you. My dad has always been the worker, right? I don't have memories of my dad throwing a baseball in the backyard. I grew up playing baseball. I don't have memories of my dad swimming around the lake where I grew up with me, but I do have memories of my father being that provider and always consistently going to work no matter what. So that I respect 100%. My Uncle Leo was the person who I admired, who taught me about athletics, who taught me about photography, who taught me about schooling, about the importance of education, and so many other things. And as a result of that, I admired him. This is my father figure, right?
And that's your dad's brother?
No, this is my mom's brother, actually,
okay.
yeah. And so, but Leo all of a sudden would go from this guy who I admired, respected, and loved dearly to, I remember when I was 13 years old, him turning and looking at me and being like, "Are you smoking crack, boy?" And I'm just looking, I'm like, what, Leo, what are you saying? And then just his voice, his tone, his affect, his eye contact was different. Everything. He would isolate himself. He was just not Leo. And it was literally Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Leo, shout out to you, bro. I love you to death. I am everything I am today because of you, because of who you are, because of the person that you are. But he just taught me both sides of it. And so by me seeing my uncle Leo get Baker acted, police coming to the house, him isolating himself, him not bathing, him being very paranoid, him wandering the streets shoeless, walking from Hialeah way down in Fort Lauderdale, just walking, without eating, without drinking, and just in a psychotic state. And so after a while, I became the go-to person who it was like, hey, Leo is quote unquote sick. Leo está enfermo was the common theme. And so they would just call me and tell me, can you help? And so I was always the go-to over and over as I got older, which caused friction between he and I, but I didn't care because I knew at the end of the day, hey, he's not being consistent on his medications. He needs help. Yeah. His family needs help. And so that was what kind of started my path into mental health, was me understanding not only how it impacted Leo, but how it impacted his family, his daughter, his son. But then outside of that, it impacted my grandmother, my mom. Then outside of that, it impacted his job. So it impacted a community as a result of this. So that's where mental health, that's in the back of my mind was always the desire and the passion for mental health, was because we all have this seed planted in us because we want to make a difference in somebody's life. And that seed was planted by my uncle. Fast forward, I go to the psych ward. I start treating people just as I would my uncle. I would sit in the lounge with all the patients. I just had a better understanding, not a better understanding. I just had a sort of empathy that probably some of the other people didn't have. And listen, there's a lot of people that do have strong empathy. I'm not trying to put myself up on a pedestal at all. There's a lot of great clinicians out there. So yeah,
I have a question though. So do you think there's a reason why you had like that you saw your uncle more of a father figure? Like being like your pops was always like the provider and all this stuff. Like, did you see something in your uncle specific that made you feel like he was like, you wanted him to be the father figure?
Time. Time. You know, when somebody, I think that's a major misconception that a lot of men have, is that we want to be providers to our kids. But if you want the admiration of your child, invest time in them. You have to step away from work. You have to get away from the grind, or bring them into the grind with you. Let them understand what's going on at a very young age. And that's gonna influence them a lot, because that's all they want. They want that time with you. They want that relationship with you. And that's what I saw with my uncle Leo. It was the time that he invested in me. Yeah. That's a great question though.
Yeah, especially being kids, you know, it's 1,000% true what you're saying. It's like, yeah, you have your dad and, you know, they buy you stuff and all that. They give you everything you need. Yeah. But sometimes when I just want to go outside, like you said, throw baseball, you know, that's the time that you get excited for. Yeah. So if anybody else is there, you start looking up to that person that's always giving you the time to do that, even though you know that the parent is working, but you don't understand that as a kid. Yeah. You understand like, oh, dad is not home. He's just always working. Yeah, and you think, you might take it personal. Sometimes you might think like, oh, you know, he's just always working. He doesn't want to spend time with you. No, especially our generation, our parents' generation. You know, we're 80s babies. You know, like our parents came here from immigrant places. You know, we're from DR, and they had to figure it out. So some of them had 2-3 jobs, and a lot of times we're out on our own in the house. You know, so I understand that 1,000%.
Yeah, and on top of, I realize now, and I don't know if I've spoken about this publicly, but I realize now that why my relationship with my dad wasn't as tight as I would have always desired. And I think by understanding our parents and their backgrounds and their mindset and their behaviors, we learn to accept them for who they are instead of trying to change who they are.
Yep. Or blame them.
Or have expectations of them. Yep. And so it's not about expecting. Like, I can't expect of you. I need to just say, I need to just accept you for who you are without expectations. And so my dad, I learned that at the age of 6 or 7, his biological mom left him and his brother Bowie, and So then there's already a severance and attachment there. And again, this is me psychoanalyzing my dad and the family tree and stuff like that. But when I began to understand, oh, wait, there was a severance of my dad at a young age. So the way that he loves is very different than the way that I want him to love. So he loves by providing.
Yep.
He loves by his actions. I don't know anybody else who is, look, my dad doesn't go to church, but I don't know a man that is more Christian than him by definition. He is giving. He is about community. He's about love. He expects nothing and gives everything. So.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I just posted something today about, what has something that your family, have you had anything from your parents that was passed down to you? You know what I mean? Like whether it be knowledge, like I was pretty much putting it as knowledge or like, hey, my parents taught me about investing or they taught me about this, they taught me about that. And like how you just said, like I had a conversation with someone where it was like, I wish my parents taught me this. And I'm like, I feel the same way, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like trying to understand where they were, you know what I mean? At that point in time when they had you back then and all the shit that they had to go through, I don't think we really realize or try to understand, like, why did they raise me the way they raised me? Who raised them? You know what I mean? How were they treated? And when I really sit back and think about it, I know how my grandparents raised my parents, and I'm like, damn, I really need to. I can be pissed off at some times where I'm like, damn, I wish I would have learned because I would have been so much further off. Now I'm learning all this shit on my own, but they raised me to be who I am today, which I know I'm a good person with very little. And what they were taught, as from their parents was like, you got to salute them. You have to salute them because it's like they did their best and they did what they didn't want for me, what they were taught. You know what I mean? Which was a bunch of crazy shit, but same instance for you.
And the beauty in that is the fact that now you have the opportunity to turn around, and when you do have children, is to teach them those things that you didn't get, to have those experiences with them that you never had. That's the ticket. Now, if you miss that, that's a different story.
Yeah. That's my own problem.
Yeah.
it's like, I learned all this shit and I just didn't pass it on. Like, oh, you're a scumbag. Now, question. So as far as like you working in the like psych ward and everything like that.
Sorry, I went on a long ass tangent and never even finished. So I did.
He's like, all that, I'm a 7.
No. I went on a long ass tangent, and it's to say you guys asked me how I transitioned into the psych ward. Into psychiatry and having my own practice. And so that was just the whole backstory in terms of what brought me to the point where I worked at Camilla's house with the homeless population for a good 2 years, which was an amazing experience, an amazing opportunity. That opened the doors to teaching at the University of Miami, which, look, I'm a kid who started at Miami-Dade College. At first, there was a lot of imposter syndrome. There was a lot of, like, I don't belong here. Yeah. What am I doing standing in front of these students? They're going to know I'm fake. But then after a while, I started realizing, wait, I have a ton of experience. I have a lot to offer. I have plenty of clinical experience and life experience that I could definitely pass on to these students. And I did that for almost 6 years. And I learned that I did have a passion for inspiring students and changing people's lives and wanting people to be better and better themselves. And to help the profession of nursing and anybody in the healthcare field. And then COVID hit. Wait, time out. Before COVID hit, I also realized that academia wasn't for me. Yeah. There's a ton of bureaucracy. Yep. I wasn't teaching the courses that I wanted to teach. I wasn't getting chosen to teach the courses that I was expert in. Yeah. Courses that I felt like, damn, I can really give to these students right now. And I could really influence and change lives. That's the platform that I expected. It's not necessary. I had glimpses of that platform while I was there, but it wasn't the whole story. Yeah. There was a lot of filling gaps. There was a lot of me studying for a course that was 3 weeks out that I had no idea and had no business teaching. And I was losing time that my daughter's riding bike and I'm sitting in a garage flipping through a book. And so COVID hits. All of a sudden I go ahead and June 1st, 2020, I get a Zoom call invite. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to talk about what's going on next semester. And instead it's my boss Shout out to Mary Hushman. I see you, girl. She's awesome. Good people.
I'm like, wait.
I'm like,
Did she fire you?
you about to say that you got fired?
Yeah.
I am about to say I got fired, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me. So Mary Hushman, the dean, which I don't even remember her name, and then the lady from HR. Guys, if you ever get a Zoom call and you have your big boss, your immediate boss, and the person from HR,
You already know
The
what's
witness.
up.
It's the witness.
get ready. Is bad news coming up. And so basically they told me June 1st, 2020 at about 10 a.m. And they basically said, hey, as of today, June 1st, 2020, your contract with the University of Miami is being terminated. And I was like, June 1st. I looked into the screen. I got real close and I was like
effective immediate?
yeah, I was like, June 1st is today. I lecture at 5 p.m. Today, now, what do I do? Yeah. Basically, you got to clear your box and you got so many hours to get all your stuff. Your email's going to be gone. Everything's going to be gone. Gone. Midnight, it was gone. It was gone. Everything. I was deleted. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And as of that day, I had already opened my practice, but it was kind of a side hobby.
Yeah.
And as of that day, I turned around and started my practice. Took the Gary V model, started putting my face out there. It took me about a year to really start marketing myself. But I knew I was doing it because I love what I did and not necessarily because I was just trying to chase money. It was just the opportunity was there. I was pushed off a cliff without a parachute and
It's the best way to learn.
it was time. No, it's not the best way, bro. Stop playing.
I mean,
There are other ways, but in some cases, people.
but sometimes you're put in a position where if you're not pushed off of that ledge, then how long is it going to take you to start that practice?
It would have been a slow. Like I said, the practice was started, but it was.
But if you weren't fired, how long do you think it would have took you to really start taking that serious?
It would have been. It would have been a long time.
So that's
Probably,
how I feel is the best way to learn, because
Yeah.
sometimes we kind of hold ourselves to the security. So it's like, all right, I have this job, but like I'm gonna do my thing on the side. But the minute that's removed from you, now it's like, all right, now this needs to work. I have no other choice, but this needs to work, and it makes you just fucking go balls to the wall and make it happen.
And that's exactly what it was.
So then
that's
why'd you say no? I said
Because you said it's the best way. I think there's other ways.
one of the
Yeah,
best
there's
ways.
definitely
One
other
of the
ways.
best
There's
ways.
calculated ways, right?
Yeah,
Calculated
yeah.
risk ways. But, to
But
kind of piggyback on what you said, it's
I'm a
true
little
because
extremist,
You're right.
yeah.
a lot of times we got to get uncomfortable. And who's better to do that besides,
Yeah.
God himself? And you'd be like, all right, no, this is what you need to do. Go
Now.
get it. Like
Yeah.
sink or swim. If you really want this, sink or swim, right? Anyways, so look, there's a lot of things that trigger our mental health. Being everywhere you've worked, everything you participated in, even Camilla's house, I'm very familiar with Camilla's house. I actually try to donate clothes there because I feel like, I don't know what it was that they have, but they actually have like these programs in there that it's like if people are looking for jobs, like it's not just like hey, you go donate Goodwill and you never know where that goes. Like Camilla's house actually has like different programs in there. I forgot what it was. But what are some things that you've seen? What are some potential causes that you've seen that trigger mental health in a lot of men or women just over the years?
I mean, just life issues. If you've ever been through financial issues, if you've ever suffered any sort of relationship issues, if you've ever had grief or loss of a loved one, job loss, trauma, sexual abuse as a child, physical abuse as a child, neglect. So all of these different things are events that happen to us, even if it's just not just psychological abuse, bullying. I know bullying is a big thing right now, and sometimes we dismiss it because we come from a little bit of a different generation where it was like, toughen up.
Toughen
Like,
up, yeah.
Toughen up.
You gotta
Like,
have tough skin.
but it's a different ballgame when you are a 13-year-old female and all of a sudden you have people bombarding you on social media. And where social media is like life, and where that all those friends in your school mean everything to you, and all of a sudden you're the target. This has a high impact on somebody's mental health. So long story short, what are the causes? Like what's the causation of mental health issues? It's just all of the above. So what are the preventative measures? Is having a strong family support, having strong friendships, having a sense of meaning in life, having outlets, hobbies, and then I could get into like therapy and different things like that. But if you want a foundation for building a stronger individual to prevent mental health issues, one of the main questions I would ask people, I haven't been seeing patients for the past year and a half. But one of the things that always surprised me is I would ask them during an initial evaluation, I would ask it this way, and it was just a means of asking about community support. If you're having a really shitty day, if you're having a crummy day, who do you go to for help? And guys, I can't tell you how often it was nobody. Zero. They have a bad day at work. They go home. They shut the door, and it's Netflix, and it's scrolling on their phone, and then it's to bed. Wake up the next morning, go back to work, go back home, shut the door, do it again. So people living in social isolation, specifically men about our age, loneliness is probably the number one symptom that a lot of them are facing that leads to mental health issues. So I want to stress community support. Where do we find community support? Because people our age are like, yo, how do I make a friend? And part of friendship can come from, hey, church, do you have some sort of religious belief? I'll ask them that. Do you play ball? Are you interested in martial arts? Do you want to go to group HIIT training? Do you want to go to a book club? I really don't care what it is, but you need to have some source or some sort of community in order for you to just feel better. Social interaction is inherently part of being a human. We are a group living species. We need people. And then right now people are going to this thing.
And that's the worst thing.
Now, and if you don't mind me asking too, like being that you're in this room, and I know you use the example of like a 13-year-old girl. Like I know you have a daughter. So have you ever used what you do in real life, and obviously with your job, like helping your daughter, being that she's, younger and she's in school and stuff like that, to help her not have to fall to the things that are going on nowadays?
Of course. So whether I like it or not, a lot of people ask me, oh, but since you're in the mental health field, do you spend your days psychologically evaluating people? And no, I don't. But inherently, it's part of who I am. So as I'm talking to my daughter, there's a little bit of an assessment going on, and I'm understanding like what her mental health is. Nothing more than how you view the world.
Yeah, your perception.
How do you perceive the world? What is the lens that you're literally looking at the world through? Because somebody can have a very negative perception of the world. They can feel as though they're constantly being attacked. They can feel that they're constantly being persecuted. They can feel like the world is against them. Or they can just feel like, I'm just
coasting.
Life is great.
I'm chilling.
That's probably my kids.
Yeah.
Spoiled ass.
Yeah, life is great. Right?
Dad will take care of it.
Like,
So over here like stressing the whole day.
So with my daughter, I constantly am asking her about her friendships. And one of the things that I've asked her recently was, hey, Eva, what's more difficult, the academic side of school or the social side? Without blinking, she said the social side. And she's told me. I asked her just recently. We were at the beach. We went to Naples 2 weekends ago. And I was in the water with her, and I just start small talk with her. And I say, so what are your expectations of high school? She's heading into high school now. And one of the things that she told me was to have friends that are not toxic. And I said, well, what does that mean? And she started naming different relationships and how certain friends act and how some friends want to keep her away from other people that she also likes. And so they try to pull her in and manipulate her to not like this person. And it's
Mean
like,
Girls, Mean Girls.
That's exactly what it is. And so in a sense, I am.
Does she ever notice that you're doing it?
Nah, because it's just a conversation. I'm showing her love at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if like she knows at that age now, like, oh, my dad does this for a living. So it's like, are you know what I mean?
She doesn't care, man. I'm just dad. Like, I'm this annoying guy who I want to hug her on the couch and sit next to me. And she's like, get away from me, man. Yeah. Until she wants to. And I'm like, listen, now you want to come and hug me. Oh, wait, what do you want, Eva? Yeah. Is that really what you want? Come on. So it's funny.
Now, just going back to when you originally were saying that, you were working or volunteering or working in the psych ward and everything like that. A question that I've just thought of, like, do you think that there's anybody that's like too far off, like that can't be saved?
Too far off and can't be saved.
Like, they get to a certain point of quote unquote, like they're crazy or whatever it may be, where it's like, this person, or we'll say depression or anything like that, like this person's just too far off, like we can't save them, like they're gone.
So this is not clinical and this is not evidence-based, but for me, pedophilia is something I just don't do well with. Although I did have some experience with dealing with people who were pedophiles or convicted pedophiles, and I still managed to have a sense of empathy and compassion for them. I'll give you a quick story, and I'll just make up a name. His name is Peter, right? We'll call him Peter. I'm seeing Peter at Camilla's house, and I see him the first day, and I'm doing my initial eval, and he tells me that he suffers from PTSD, and the reason he suffers from PTSD is that he was in prison for like 10 to 15 years. This is a heavy subject, guys, so I'm sorry. I used to always tell my students in school, like, hey, I'm going to lecture. This is not going to be the most upbeat and fun conversation, but we're going to learn.
But it's real, though.
Everyone just leaves the class.
Yeah, but we're going to, everybody leaves like, damn, what the hell was
I need
that?
a fucking nap after that class.
Bro, I'm canceling the rest of the day.
No,
bro.
or they walk up to you after class and start wanting to disclose. This is always what happens.
Yeah.
So Peter comes to tell me basically that he spent like, I forgot how many years in prison, and he tells me they tortured me in prison. They beat the shit out of him. They put him in solitary confinement when he wasn't doing anything. They constantly were beating this guy. So this guy's PTSD was pretty severe. I don't know if you guys know, but there's an area in East Hialeah along the train tracks, the only place in Miami-Dade County where pedophiles are allowed to stay, because there's a law where they have to be within so many blocks or so many yards or meters, I don't even know, of a school district.
Away from the school.
I didn't know that.
Which doesn't make sense because that's where they have to sleep. Kids aren't in school at night. So whatever. That's a different story for another day.
Miami.
Yeah. They used to stay along the Julia Tuttle Causeway where it was Tent City.
Yeah.
This was maybe 15 years ago or so. Look it up, people. Google it. So Peter goes on to tell me that he's beat. He goes on to say that he was tortured, but then I learned why. And it was because he was a pedophile. He happened to sexually molest his nephew. So initially, what did I do? I saw him, I did the interview, I maintained professionalism, but I walked out and I went to go see a psychologist. I was like, I can't see this guy. I don't want to see this guy. So the psychologist that I worked with at the time started picking my brain, and she challenged me. And she said, well, like, she just challenged why I got into the field and my level of compassion, my level of empathy. And she sort of convinced me to try again and keep trying. Eventually, I did help him. Because I learned that it was a cycle of violence that was occurring, and Peter actually had been a victim of pedophilia as well. But it's still something very difficult, and I don't know if there's any sort of treatment or regimen to help somebody who, even as I spoke to him afterwards, even after a lot of therapy, believed that the child was engaged in sexual play by sitting on his lap. That's dark, bro.
Yeah.
It's dark to me. So I really struggled with that. Now, in terms of people being, so that's the only example I could think of somebody who's so far gone, but that's just in my opinion. This is not evidence-based. And that's just there's plenty of people who will work with that sort of patient. But no, I think everybody can be helped. I think everybody can always level up in some sort of way. Does it take some effort on their part? 100%. I don't think there's medications alone that can just solve people's problems. And I think that's the issue that we run into in the United States.
It's just like masking it.
Well, it's not just masking, but we want instant gratification.
Yeah.
Like, we grew up in this. How old are you guys?
36.
33.
So you're a little bit younger, but still, you grew up in the steroid era of baseball.
Yeah.
So we saw dudes
Mark
McGuire.
Sammy,
We saw Jose Canseco.
Jose
We saw the McGuire Sosa home run derby. So we saw instant gratification.
66.
Juiced up.
66.
Everybody's juiced up.
Yeah.
Look, the American Gladiators documentary. I don't know if you guys
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
See it, watch it, because I was watching it last night and I was like, these were guys I idolized, and I didn't realize all the drama that was going on behind the scenes.
I mean, WWE.
Wrestlers. I was going to say,
Like,
Triple H, Stone Cold, The Rock, all of them were on
those
that
were
shit.
juiced up,
Juice
bro.
to the gills,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Juice to the gills. Yeah. So we saw all these different examples of people just chasing instant gratification, and it trickled down to high school, because I remember all the baseball players in my high school
Were the first ones.
They were balloon up
Yeah.
and then slim down and then balloon up, and I was like, whoa, like. One of the first papers I read, or one of the first papers I wrote in high school, was on steroids, because I was like, yo, I got to learn more about this, because maybe I do want to do it.
Yeah.
But then I realized, oh, no, this ain't for me, right? This is not for me. There's too many side effects. So early on, thank God, I just stayed away from it.
It's like asking the pay. It's like, what whey protein you on? It's like, it's not whey protein.
Are you? And then they'd say, I'm just taking creatine.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's like, yeah, so was Macho Man Randy Savage back in the day. Like, come on, brother.
So we're in a society right now where instant gratification is everything, right? We want the quick pill, the quick fix, and we want out. We want the quick money. We want the hot chick, and we want her in the room like yesterday. What I've learned in life is nothing good comes easily. Mm-hmm. And you got to work and you got to grind. And it's not different in mental health. Mm-hmm. You want to get over your anxiety, you got to work through it. Mm. And it's not just a pill. It's also therapy. It's also doing the work. It's finding other modalities that help you. It's exposure, right? If you're suffering from extreme anxiety, I'm going to put myself out there. When I first started lecturing at the University of Miami, there was 150 students standing in front of me. My heart rate was probably in the 150s.
140 plus.
Standing still.
Resting heart rate, 145.
My shirts, I learned real quick, I can't wear gray. Yeah. I can't wear light blue because my shirt was sweating like that. But what did I learn? By the 7th or 8th week of the semester, all of a sudden, I was even keel.
Boy, sitting back, just fucking, so turn the page.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was constantly exposed to the same scenario over and over. My sympathetic nervous system realized there's no danger, you're not going to die, and there's no harm that's going to be done to you. Yeah. So it was relaxed. Mm. And so it's the same with different mental health issues. We got to do the work. We got to go through the reps in order for us to get better.
Now, did you ever feel like, you had to look after your uncle and everything like that? Has that burden, of being the go-to guy, like, how do you think that that's affected you?
I think it only helped me. Because then after a while, I just became, I was just talking to somebody about this today. Life makes you callous. Mm. And sometimes people look at a callous as something that's negative because it hardens you. But life is hard. Mm. And we need to be hardened because if not, life will just break us down. Listen, these aren't just reels that I want you to cut. I'm just being very honest with you.
He's like, and action.
Yeah.
He's like, by the way, 4127?
No, 4127. Cut. No. Like these calluses that you develop from lifting weights are the same calluses that you develop mentally, right? And it's about the repetitions. And after a while, at first, did it affect me? Mm-hmm. Damn, they're calling me again. Damn, Leo's going to be upset with me again. And I've spoken to him about it, but he brushes it off. Mm-hmm. But I don't give a shit what he says. I did everything I could. And I sacrificed my relationship with him, a person who I loved, admired, respected. I sacrificed that relationship, or I was willing to sacrifice it in hopes that he would get the help that he needed.
Yeah, to give him the resources. You were the median in like finding the resource, because from what I'm gathering from is that you learned about mental health as a child seeing your uncle, but you also learned that the lack of resources was like there was no resources there, so that's why you became that person.
100%.
Right? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, that's 100. So what I realized was my uncle was going through the cycle, and he was getting hospitalized, he was getting treatment, he was being discharged, and there was no follow up. Now none of you guys have a dog?
No.
I've had dogs my whole life.
Okay, you have a dog.
Right,
you ever taken your dog to the vet before? Mm-hmm. Well, I took my dog to Banfield not too long ago, right? Take my dog to Banfield. He has a skin rash. They treat him. They send him back home. And the next day I get a call on my phone. I look at my phone. I don't know this number. Hello, who's this? Oh, hi. We're calling from Banfield, and we're calling to find out how Bruno is doing. Bruno's okay. Bruno's doing good. Well, okay, cool. Well, if you need to follow up, feel free to call us back. So I'm like, and then right away, and I used to tell this to my students, my uncle would get discharged from the hospital. Nobody was calling him to see how he was doing.
Yeah. It's all a transaction.
It's a transaction. He's discharged and on to the next one. And so I realized it was a couple of things. Number one, you can treat the psychosis, and you can treat somebody who's suffering from schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, a manic episode, or whatever you want to call it. But if there's no therapy for that person to understand their illness, why they suffer from it, why medications are important, and provide education to not only the individual, but the family as a whole, then we're missing the boat. Because now we're just putting somebody into a perpetual cycle where they're going to be in and out of the hospital no matter what. So what are we doing? What are we doing?
Just putting Band-Aids on it.
Yeah. And that's my challenge always is like, hey, you have a new onset psychosis. You need to see a therapist.
Yeah.
Your family should also see a therapist. Oh, you're suffering from alcoholism. You also, we can give you medications to help with the withdrawal, with the cravings, but therapy is necessary. Groups are necessary. AA is necessary, and whatever other modalities you want to use, but the medications alone are not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
Now, if you were your uncle's resource, with everything that you've been through, being the fucking backbone of all of that, like, who has been yours?
Yeah. It's a good question.
That's all we have here.
That's all we do here.
Who has been my backbone? I'll be honest. A little while ago, you said, thank God, right? I think I was always a man of faith throughout my youth. I had lost that for a long time. I probably prayed for the first time in a couple of years 2 days ago. And it was my daughter. My grandmother's bedridden. My grandmother had a stroke 6 years ago. My mom has been her primary caretaker. My mom is a strong woman of faith. Very, very strong woman of faith. My grandmother was she was my rock. My grandmother was my backbone, actually, now that you asked me that. My grandmother was the person who I would call every day. My grandmother was the person I would call every day. And after I would leave work, or no matter where I would go, my grandmother cannot speak right now. She can't speak. So I just keep these voice memos of her.
Abuela. Hoy no te llamo. Adrián, abuela. Hoy no te he llamado, no porque te tengo cuidado, sino porque te tengo muy presente todos los días. Lo único que le pido a Dios es a diario que te dé sabiduría para resolver tu situación, ¿ok? Te tengo presente todos los días. ¿Ok? Te quiero muchísimo, mi amor. Cuídate. Bye bye. Y cuida a Eva. Bye bye.
It's beautiful, man.
And that was, you said she had a stroke 6 years ago?
Stroke 6 years ago.
So she hasn't talked in 6 years?
She can't talk now. She understands for the most part. She's there. I honestly, when she had a stroke, she was down for like 6 or 7 hours, and I prayed that she would pass. I prayed. I was like, I've been in the hospital system long enough.
Yeah.
I said, she's gonna be a vegetable. I don't need this for her, and I don't need this for my family. But what my grandmother would always tell me was she loved life, and she still loves life. Like, you guys are going to think I'm a dick, but whenever I lay down next to her, I'm like, Abuela, ¿cuándo es el velorio? Abuela, when's the burial? You know what she tells me?
Nunca, hijo.
She just goes like this. No, it's not going to happen. It's not happening. And she told me a long time ago, she said, if anything ever happens to me, do everything in your power to keep me alive.
That's funny, because usually people are just like, just let me go.
Yeah.
Oh, she was the opposite.
That's crazy.
And I would tell her, I would challenge her. But wait, you're Christian. Don't you want to go to heaven forever? Like, what are you saying? Like, what do you mean? And she would just like, keep me alive as long as you can. Do everything you can. And at one point, I went against her will, and I signed the DNR. I do not resuscitate. And my girl has never needed it. She never had like a code episode in the hospital where she needed to be resuscitated. So she's a different.
She's strong, man.
She's a different being altogether. So that was my rock for a long time.
That's good. I mean, I'm glad that
That's
you
beautiful.
had something. You know what I mean? Because like you said, you talked about, just what you were saying right now, and it's like, that's the story. But then it's like, all right, well, what about you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you have to go to? Because it's like, when you're holding all that weight, there's going to be a time that you're going to have to crack. And, if you don't have that, like you said, a lot of the men that you've seen, that you've treated right now, it's like, lonesome and not having anybody to go to. But when you're in that mode, you're just survival. I need to take care of these people. But then it's like, dog, what about me? You know what I mean? If I can't take care of me, how am I going to take care of you?
And it's funny that you asked me that, because I'm always I'm constantly asking that to people who are the caretakers, the providers that work for me. the provide and just people in general. Today I reposted a story a reel that I put out, and was exactly that. Hey, if you're a healthcare professional, you're usually the caretaker, but make sure that you're getting help too.
Yeah.
And now you're asking me that. I'm like, deer in the headlights.
He's like, I don't have insurance.
Oh man, that was beautiful, man. I honestly, I wish I had my grandparents, you know, because my grandparents passed when I was young, on my dad's side, and I was closer to my dad's side. So you know, hearing that is beautiful, man. And
Thanks,
keep
bro.
that
voice note for sure.
Keep that voice note, man. Like put it in a file, put it in an email, you know, something. Because I'll tell you one thing: our grandparents were the thugs of the U.S. in a good way.
Yeah.
In a sense of like anything you need, they have remedies. Like I remember one thing I could remember is when I was younger is that no matter what, like grandma always figured it out better than my mom sometimes did. You know what I mean? So like, again, just that literally gave me chills, man. Because I wish
funny
I still
that
had
voice note. I was just like, damn, I really don't. Because I remember like just going off of that. My grandmother, actually both of my grandmothers, my mom and my dad's side, were always very mean growing up. Like you just stay away from them because they were just really mean. And I remember my grandmother from my father's is still alive. And I remember up until like 2 years ago was where like the first time she was like, I love you. And I was like, hold on, you about to hit me? Like, hold up. Like I'm about to like wait for the chancleta and shit. But I was just like, what the fuck? But then my mom's mom, who had passed away, she was always mean. And I remember right before she was like getting sick is where she started to soften up and like, oh, I love you. And, you know, and I was just like, damn, it's weird. But I wish, you know, from my mom's side, I have pictures with her, but not really a lot because me and her weren't really like that because she was always mean. And, you know, now I need to just thinking about that. Like my dad's side is she's still alive, and I really need to kind of tap into that of just being able to be present with her and have those voice notes or those moments.
Can I challenge you real quick?
Challenge me, dog.
I will tell you to sit her right here.
Yikes.
She lives in Dominican Republic, but I'll buy her a flight.
Well, no, I mean
we could take this anywhere. We're going to DR.
Not only that, you could either go to DR or there's a way to hook this up to a laptop and you do interview her. I just interviewed. So again, my dad's biological mom left him, but I interviewed my grandma and I actually asked her. This was taboo.
Yeah.
You don't ask her about.
That's like disrespectful.
Yeah, she's like, no, I'm your. It was like, no, Abuela is your grandmother, and never bring this up ever. And you know what? I set up a camera. I went to her living room, and I said, Abuela, I love you to death. I know I need to understand the family history and how this came about. I love you no matter what. You are my grandmother. You are her. Mm-hmm. But I understand that biologically you are not my grandmother.
Yeah.
But I don't care about that, but I need to understand it. She took it so well. And it's hard.
Yeah, I know. Because I'm telling you, when you challenge from just my upbringing, you challenge any like older authority, it's like you're disrespectful.
Yeah.
Like don't ask me no question. Yeah.
But if you set it up in a way where she knows you're coming from a place of love and compassion and just wanting to understand life, I think that they receive it.
That's crazy because I've never thought about asking her. I really haven't. And me and her are closer now, even though she lives in Dominican Republic. But now, like, I'll call her and like, hey, how you doing? Everything good? I miss you. I love you. But I never thought of like, yo, why were you like that before?
And you know what? You're going to, all of a sudden, all those perceptions you had of her in your childhood might just dissipate because you realize what pain she was carrying, what trauma she was carrying. Because again, that is what mental health is, right? It's the background that shapes you. Our environment right now shapes us. We feel comfortable in here right now. This feels good. We can communicate openly. But what if you're in this same household and you can't speak what you think?
That's usually how it starts.
That's literally how it
starts.
That's how it always is, dog.
And you're constantly feeling belittled, and you're constantly just like your perception of the world doesn't matter. And shut the fuck up, you're an idiot.
Like, what do you know?
Yeah, you don't know shit. Just shut up, stay quiet, go clean the dishes. Like,
and you know how parents are. Parents are, you know, especially when you're in your middle teenage years. Like my parents divorced early. I was 12 maybe. So, you know, they keep a lot from you because they think you're dumb. But, you know, you can kind of put two and two together because they think you're protecting you. But you see everything. Like, kids see everything. You know what I mean? Like, but ultimately, you know, that's where it starts because now you start not wanting to be home where that's supposed to be your safe space. because you get nothing out of being home. You know, you go out, you go pa calle, you know, go meet up with friends, go do a lot of dumb shit. And we talked about it before. You know, I'm just giving you a little bit of background, but he knows like it's like, all right, I get out from school, go home, get dressed, and get out because I don't want to see none of this shit. I don't want to see my parents arguing or them throwing shit around. Like it's not healthy for me. So I think that starts a lot when you're in those early years. You good? Oh man, but I'm gonna call you Doc. So Doc, man, talk to us a little bit about where you see this mental health space going. What do you envision the future of mental health being, the future of mental health care being, and what changes would you like to see happen in the future, being that you're in that space and you're creating that avenue for people?
I mean, the future of mental health, mental health care is somewhat antiquated, right? There was a lot of, we've been extremely limited in the arsenal that we have in terms of medications. It's now that we're looking at what are the effects of cannabis? What are the effects of psilocybin?
Yeah.
People are.
What do you think of that?
Now using ketamine.
I didn't even think about because
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I mean, being that you're in that realm, I'm like, I don't want to be like that guy. Like, oh, what about psychedelics? And you're like, all right, bro, like, what the fuck?
I gotta practice to run the fuck.
Yeah, like
no, at all. I mean, if you look at it, it just number one, psilocybin is still illegal in the United States, except I think in Oregon. Yeah. So there's very few places where it's actually legal and can be used. So I don't want to give any recommendations on it.
No, but what do you think that like where that is heading? Like, do you think that
I think it's going to be used.
Yeah.
I think the same way ketamine is being used. I think we need to utilize whatever we have to help people who, let's say, if you're suicidal and you have been through all sorts of,
medication,
psychotropic medications, antidepressants, antipsychotics, but then this person isn't breaking, then we need to look at something else that works on neural circuitry and helps them carve a new pathway to seeing that there is
more to life.
There's more to life. There's more to offer. So if we're really talking about helping people, then we need to open up all options. But now we're talking about politics, and we're talking about laws, and we're talking about people who just view these things as from the devil and as a negative. So I think we just need to, I think it's slowly coming around. I think we're just very behind the 8 ball. Yeah. We're just, I mean, we might as well be doing lobotomies in some cases where we could be helping people a lot easier if these different methods were allowed and legal. I think the whole Reagan era really slowed us down in terms of the war on drugs. And it just made a lot of substances illegal that probably should have been studied a little bit more. But the research was limited because they were deemed controlled substances.
Yeah, but they were using it themselves.
Yeah.
Studies and all that shit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, we've tapped in this conversation before. I mean, we're very free spirited.
Yeah,
to better said. But I personally think that this right here is something that should be illegal, because for me personally, alcohol, for people that can watch and are listening in, alcohol turns people into different people. You have that what's that shit called again? When you have like that liquid courage, right? Oh, okay. So people start changing, who they really are at their core. Now, when you start studying, you can show facts, and you can show like facts that, you put somebody on a psychedelic, a mushroom, marijuana, whatever. Crime goes down, less car accidents, less fight. It's a proven fact of all these, drugs, quote unquote, bad drugs that I can actually have a positive outlook and influence.
Without even looking at the research, just tell me, would you rather be in a room full of drunk ass people or high ass people?
High.
They're going to be just either tired, hungry, sleeping, or wanting to watch a movie. I mean, there's nothing else to it.
But I feel like it does something to your mind where it doesn't make you want to be that other person that maybe, for example, when people drink, right? They get that liquid courage. They always want to fight somebody, get aggressive. Why? Because maybe they were picked on before. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like some drugs don't really tap into a trauma. Some drugs actually just give you a different perspective on where you're at and taking what you're looking at or what you're going through for what it is. I think you were mentioning it earlier.
Yeah.
Just let everything's already written. You know what I mean? Like, just let things for what it is. That'll cure a lot of anxiety. We try to anticipate the future. Like, who the fuck are we?
Yeah.
This shit, everything is already part of the plan of what's supposed to happen in your life, right? But drugs does that to you, you know, and I don't care. I'll speak on it. You know, we've gone to festivals and things like that. We've experienced, and it's like, well, I come back with like not delivered, you know, like that guy said a long time ago. But it's like, you know, you got a different perspective on life. I'm like, what's really important, what you really stress, especially here in the U.S., you know, with our jobs and all this shit that we deal with.
So there's studies that show that there's actually ways to take psychedelics where it creates a different experience.
Yeah,
that's
a lot of it
embedded
is
in
just
your mind.
mindset. A lot of it is just.
So actually, even just again, I'm not condoning the use of any
No,
drugs.
of course. This disclaimer.
Like,
Always.
full disclaimer.
Don't sue me.
Yeah, but
Come to my office tomorrow
yeah,
for a free consultation.
just look at the studies in terms of when people use certain substances, especially psychedelics, or like right now, ketamine infusions are legal. The taking ketamine blindfolded versus with your eyes open.
Have you guys done?
No, so I'm very interested in tapping into ketamine. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
But it's something that's, if you go in, I have a board that's just like yours, but it's just full of like operations, marketing, future ideas, et cetera, et cetera. And ketamine's up there. And the reason being, because I think that there is 100% a place for it, especially if it's ketamine assisted therapy. I'm not going to speak on it. I'm not an expert on it. But I do know some things. And for instance, if you're taking it recreationally versus taking it blindfolded and laying down and assisted with therapy, it's a very different experience.
Yeah.
And not only that, the outcomes are very different.
Yeah.
So
Because there's different factors. You know what I mean? You don't have external things. If you're just laying there and you're going through therapy, that's very intimate. But if you're out there at a party doing ketamine, that's a different
I'm like,
story.
yo, your face looks like slime right now. Yeah, it's different. The lights are crazy, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Coachella.
Shout out to Coachella.
Yeah.
You have anything else, man?
No. I mean, some of the questions I want to ask him offline, but it's nothing.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot, because even like a couple questions that I had, like, he's covered it under different ways. But you know, we use the platform obviously to not show what you're doing.
Yo, I don't want this to be done yet, bro. I'm having a good time.
No, this is not done. It's not done.
We're good. Trust me.
We're good.
Just relax.
Sit down and just let us do what we do.
Here's some ketamine.
I'm here like, here's a little much for me. But no, you know what I mean? Look, man, we talked offline before we started. And again, this is a platform that we're using to have these talks, man, because I think it's important, especially as men, you know, not only our generation, but the generations to come. We're trying to get ahead of this mental health and really blow this up. You know, you having your own practice and us coming across your page, you know, and us doing this, honestly, it's been a gift, you know, that's just kind of laid it up to us. But we want to build this community. But we also want to get to know, you know, Dr. Adrian Mesa as a person. So besides business, you know, and everything that you've gone through in the mental health field, what's something that's impactful that's happened in your life that you wish somebody had taught you or talked to you about before you experienced it?
I thought about this question when you sent the email, and I was like, yo, where do I go with this one? Where do I go with this one?
Fuck.
I think the best advice I could give to anyone that I wish that someone had given to me kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, which was when a relationship is done and there's red flags up, it's okay to let it go.
You touched on that earlier.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying it again, because I really think that some people need to hear that. I think too many people hold on to toxic relationships, hold on to things that are just finished, and they go back. And I don't know where I read it or heard it, and somebody once told me, you don't drink spoiled milk, right? But yet we keep on going back to the fridge and just tasting it just to make sure it's still spoiled.
Do you think there's a reason for that? Do you think it's like,
I can tell you,
we think that we can do better, or?
No, I can only speak for myself, right? I can't speak for everyone. And I can say that part of it was growing up in the church, and where there was a lot of figures around me who were telling me, do everything you can to salvage your relationship, do everything you can to keep the nuclear family intact. And I did all of that. if there's any regret that I have was not letting it go sooner. Because had I let it go sooner, I think I just would have been happier sooner, to be frank. I think there was a lot of opportunities that were being pulled back from me just because I was trying to work so hard on this thing that was inevitably going to be crumbled.
Yeah. Do you think that, because we had someone recently talk about that, like where it's like they taught you what they were taught. So maybe they didn't know about divorce, or they didn't know about like, hey, if this shit's not working, then just step out. It's always been like, hey, like we were taught to always make it work no matter what. You know, do you think that could have been a reason why they?
I think those are just morals and values that are instilled in the church. And I don't fault the church at all. I think the church is a great place. I think the church offers people hope and faith and empowers people and gives them a sense of purpose and life. So I think there's a lot of great things that come from it. But I can speak for myself personally and say that was a heavy influence where I let people constantly speak into my ear, where they weren't living where I was living, and they weren't feeling what I was feeling when I walked into my home.
Exactly.
So it's a very different ball game when you're doing something from a theoretical standpoint and a philosophical standpoint versus like, dude, I'm living this and I'm feeling it. I'm experiencing it. And I know what you're telling me. And I know that what you want is for good in my life and good in the life of my family. But it's not healthy, man.
Yeah. I know the intentions are pure, but you're not stepping into my shoes and going back to the one bedroom
where I have to lay my
roach infested apartment that I'm living in. No, I'm being honest. I mean, I live in the Bronx, New York. Like I lived in Washington Heights and in the Bronx. Like it's not Miami. It's not the house I have here. You know what I mean? Like it's not this place. You know what I mean? So there's gonna be communities and other people that always want to give you the best advice that they possibly can, that they're aware of, but they also don't know where you're going back to and how hard it is just to stay focused and your mental to stay, focused. And I'm glad, and I honestly applaud you for saying that, because toxic relationships also, I strongly believe that it's all types of toxic relationships. And what I mean by that is not only just in a relationship with a man or a female or a woman, it can be family, it can be friends, sometimes your own parents. You know, I feel like toxic relationships can come from employers. A lot of people are just giving a negative energy towards you, where it's okay to separate yourself from that.
So a patient, right? You take a patient who's diabetic and they have an ulcer. It could be an ulcer on a finger or a toe. That ulcer becomes necrotic. That necrosis seeps into the bloodstream, and it could make the whole body septic and lead to death. What's the option?
Cut that finger off.
You cut the finger off, man. And that's the way I'm living life. Sometimes you got to sacrifice.
It's a perfect analogy.
It really is.
Just fucking.
You got. Sometimes it's the finger. Sometimes it's from the wrist. Sometimes it's the arm. But you got to sever it to salvage the rest of yourself.
And what you're building, man. Because ultimately, what you're building is, it's your passion. It's your vision. You're bringing people on that can contribute to it. So if there's COVID in there,
no, and I'm preaching mental health. How am I preaching mental health? And there's a toxic environment that is shaping and affecting the mental health of employees of mine.
And you know what's crazy? And since we're on the topic really quick, a lot of candidates that are looking for jobs now, guess what? A lot of it is, are you a cultural fit? I don't care about your resume. Everybody lies on their resumes. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? Are you a cultural fit? Because we actually, where I work, I'm not going to say the name, but where I work, it's a huge, company, worldwide. But they hire based on what can you contribute, obviously. But do you fit what we have here? We have fun. We believe in work-life balance. Are you going to be the guy that's always making excuses to not come to work? Or are you going to come to work, give it your all, and then when you need something, we'll say, go for it, because you're part of this environment that we're building, that it's healthy, not just physically but mentally for a lot of people.
For sure,
that plays a big role. I mean, we're in a job 8 hours a day. We spend more times in our jobs than we do with our own family. That's a fact. It's a proven fact, right? So I think that's a big thing, and I don't blame you for it. As a business owner, you're gonna have to take your emotions out of things a lot and do what's right for the business and the company. And a lot of times that's
sever it. And to me, culture is everything.
Yeah.
And that how am I going to preach mental health to everybody else and have a toxic work environment?
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
And that spreads quick. But what's tell the people that are listening, we're going to wrap it up, and tell the people that are listening, what's next for you, doctor? I mean, what's in the plans for you? What would you like to accomplish in the next, short-term goals, 1 to 2 years? And what can they expect from you?
Yeah, more than anything, I just want to continue to preach mental health, to preach quality of life, and to use my practice as a platform for that. I have amazing providers that work for me. AMP Mental Health has become it is me. It's funny when you do marketing, my one of my guys, the what do you call him? He does digital marketing and he does social media and stuff like that. He starts asking me, who is AMP? Like, if AMP was a person, who is it? And he starts asking me characteristics. And as we go through it, I'm like, oh.
You describe yourself.
I just describe myself. Because he would ask me, what does AMP wear? What kind of music does he listen to? What does he do on his free time? And that's why it looks like a sports company, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm into sports. But I'm all about quality of life. I'm all about helping people. I'm about empathy, compassion, but I'm also about hard work, dedication, and doing the work to get through these things in life that inevitably punch you in the face sometimes. And so where do I see AMP going? Where do I see you asked me, where do I see myself going? I'm saying, where do I see AMP going? I just see myself trying to reach as many people as possible. Right now, we are throughout the state of Florida where we offer therapy and psychiatry. We accept just about any insurance that you could name. I also offer AMP access for people who have low income. I have some of the lowest rates for an initial eval and for follow-ups in psychiatry. We have no waiting list. Like, I just want to make it accessible, as if my Uncle Leo needed to reach somebody as he's getting discharged to the hospital. I have an appointment for him the next day or the next week. And so where do I see AMP going is we just keep going up. We continue to help people, change lives, change families, decrease the stigma, and do whatever we can to just help people understand that mental health is a part of our lives, no matter how we look at it. And it's not to be stigmatized. It's not taboo. It just is. And so I'm here to lift it up, to preach, and to scream from the rooftops, man. That's where I'm at.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And for people that are listening in, obviously we're going to drop all your information here for the video, but for the people listening in, drop anywhere where they can reach out to you.
Sure. If they wanna. The Instagram is at AMP Mental Health. That's AMP_mental_health. My personal Instagram is at Dr_Adrian Mesa. My personal cell phone number is 786-255-1158. If you are struggling, I don't give a shit. You can give me a call, shoot me a text. My office number is 305-204-9355. That's where I'm at. This is my life. This is my life. Yeah. Like, and I'm not fronting. I'm not pretending. I'm not flossing. I'm not a poser. Whatever you want to call it, I'm not that. Yeah. I am living this life. People DM me. People slide in my DMs. And it ain't about like, hey, what's up? What are you doing tonight? Nah, it's about, my brother's suicidal. Hey, my family member is going through alcoholism. I'm going through a divorce. I just lost my job. I don't know where to go in life. Those are my people. That's my tribe.
That's what's up, bro. Much respect, and you usually take it away.
I was gonna let you do it. No, it's fine. I mean, look, it's. Thank you for dropping all that information. Hope whoever was listening in can catch it. And we just want to use this platform, like I said before, to spread that awareness. And we appreciate what you're doing. We applaud what you're doing. Yep. Something as simple as a DM. Week later, week and a half, we're here having a conversation. So we're looking to build this community the same way you're building it on your end. And if there's anything that we can do here from our platform to you, just know that you have 100% support from the Prolific podcast here. Yep. Anything that we can assist you with and anything you're doing, whether it's community event or for your business or anything at all, just know you have our 100% support.
Thank you guys.
And again, we applaud you. We thank you for taking the time. We just want to let you know that, everything you're doing you're doing in abundance. And that's what we stand for here in Prolific. Yeah. And we just want to let you know that you are prolific. And, you're more than welcome to come back any other time, that you want to spread awareness or just talk about it.
I'll be back tomorrow.
We'll record on Tuesdays. But other than that, I mean, again, thank you again for
Last
taking
cheers,
the
my
time,
brother.
and we'll do one last cheers and we'll take it away. We'll make sure that we drop all the information right down below. This is episode number 39, ladies and gentlemen.
To our prolific guests,
Cheers, guys.
Dr. Adrian.
Dr. Adrian Mesa, man. Thank
Appreciate
you guys
you,
for
brother.
tuning in. Make sure you guys check us out. Make sure you like, subscribe, and always check us out and follow the information that we have for Dr.
And if
Mesa
you
that we
found
dropped
any
before.
value, let somebody know, a friend of a friend.
Absolutely.
Your dog,
Absolutely.
your cat.
Spread it out. Don't be
Whatever you
afraid to talk, man. Don't be afraid to talk. This is what we're here for.
Amen.
Yeah.
We've lived through it, and we're just trying to, get ahead of the people that are going to probably face this in a couple of years. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. We'll check you out
Appreciate y'all.
next time, and we'll see you later. Peace.
Cause they thought I'd never make it. See me fall down and they celebrated. Learn how to win with no demonstration.